Ida chapter 24. Even if you win a battle, as long as the enemy's got a heart that's beating and a brain that's working, you better be prepared for a counterattack. So for the rest of the weekend and the whole bus ride to school on Monday, I was getting ready for Claire and retribution. Claire was smart. She had friends and she was going to find some way, I knew, to get back at me for scaring her and her brother. Now, I don't need to explain what happens when a popular and persuasive young woman, like Claire, decides she's going to go after a solitary, no friends to speak of, somewhat rude young woman like myself at a place like Ernest B. Lawson Elementary School. Depending on how clever and cruel Claire was and how much pain she thought I deserved, I was looking at a period of misery and mortification that might last a week or maybe the rest of my life. I tried to think of every possible thing Claire might do, especially the worst, most excruciating ones, and figure out how I could either avoid total pain and humiliation or at least convince myself that it wasn't really that bad. She might call you a name, I warned myself. Then I imagined her saying things to me like, "Smells like Ida brought the country to school with her. Do you feed the pigs or do you roll around with them too, Ida?" in front of about 20 other kids. I practiced saying to myself, "I don't care. I don't care if Claire says I stink in front of 20 kids. I don't care if they all laugh at me and make up bad names for me." And in my head, I just turned around and told her over my shoulder, "We don't have pigs, Claire." I imagined Claire accidentally on purpose tripping me as we lined up to go inside from the playground. So all of the classes going in and out of the classes going in and all the classes going out saw me lying on the ground, flat on my face with my arms and legs sticking out like a four-legged starfish, blood pouring out of my knees and elbows, and a bump the size of a melon coming out of my forehead. I don't care if everybody thinks I'm clumsy, I assured myself. Then I pictured myself being very careful and looking out for extended body parts wherever I went. I imagined about 276 different things Claire might do to me and how I might protect myself from utter and complete degradation in all 276 cases. Nobody, I thought, outplans me. When I walked into the classroom on Monday, I kept my head straight ahead like nothing was going on. But I scanned the room from the corners of my eyes, back and forth like a minesweeper, for Claire the vengeful. I spotted her at her desk, and just at that moment, the sides of both of our eyes met, locked, registered that the enemy was now within striking distance, and then looked away. I walked over to my desk. I discreetly checked my seat for sharp metal objects. Then the inside of my desk for chewed bubblegum, worms, or rotting vegetables. Nothing. I sat down and gave one eye and one half of brain to Miss W and devoted the other eye and the stronger and more calculating half of my brain to the study of Claire. But the first part of the morning went by without incident or even a hint of retaliation. Claire didn't make faces at me or whisper to her friends and point at me. The only thing that was different was she never looked directly at me. Her face was always turned away from me like I was the scene of a gruesome accident she couldn't bring herself to even glance at. By 10:30, I decided that she was saving her wallop for recess, where there's the least adult supervision, the ability to quickly assemble a mob, and many tools for injury. I used the rest of the morning to draw a map of the playground and plan multiple escape routes. The safest spot was still my perch on the steps. If I sat a little closer to the ground, I could go forward, jump off to the other side if I had time to get them open, behind the big doors. God, I cannot read now. Disappear behind the big doors. Miss W did her usual check-in, and I almost didn't hear or see her. I was watching Claire so carefully using my peripheral vision. Then Ronnie stopped by and for about the 100th time asked me if I wanted to play dodgeball. And for the 100th time, I answered, "No thanks, Ronnie." But this time, instead of whispering it so nobody could hear me talking with somebody in a friendly way, I just said it out loud because I was so preoccupied. Ronnie sensed the change. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Nothing," I said irritably. "You're doing something." Now, if I was going to tell anybody anything, which I wasn't, it would have been Ronnie, I think. But if I told him one little thing like, "I'm watching Claire," I'd have to tell him many medium and big things like why I was watching her and what happened over the weekend too, and I wasn't ready for Ronnie to get to know that particular side of me. So I just said, "Not now, Ronnie," and he looked at me kind of mad for a second and then walked away. But it was better, I figured, to have Ronnie a little peeved than to have a whole lot damaged and degraded, just because I'd let my guard down for 3 1/3 seconds. Claire toyed with me for all of recess, pretending to be up to nothing. By the time we went back to the classroom, I was so tired from watching and planning, I just wanted to put my head down on my desk and take a nap. I supposed that a moment of weakness and fatigue on my part was exactly the invitation to injury she had in mind, though. So I propped my head up on my arm, pinched my thigh about 8 times, twisted it hard once, and stayed awake for the rest of the Claire uneventful afternoon. Her genius was beginning to dawn on me. Claire didn't try to get back on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday either. I was getting exhausted from watching and waiting and planning, and she wasn't revealing a single sign of a plot for my punishment. If she was passing out papers, she didn't crumple mine or throw it on the floor. She just placed it on my desk while she looked at the coat room. She didn't write notes about me on the lavatory walls, leave slimy things in my jacket pockets, or have her mother call up my mama and discuss my behavior. I was confounded. Truth is, I wanted Claire to retaliate. I wanted her to prove to me, Mama and Daddy, Miss Washington, and the universe at large that she was completely deserving of a little foul treatment and more. I wanted to be reminded often and obviously that the world needed protecting from people like Claire, and it needed me to protect it. Claire was not cooperating.